Is Labour failing to get a grip on the number of migrants crossing the Channel? Your call's in now. I want to hear your thoughts. More than 5,500 people have crossed the Channel so far in 2025. That's over 1,000 more people attempting to make the journey than we were doing so by this time last year in 2024. Now, this has happened despite the government's attempt to tackle the people smuggling gangs behind the crossings, and despite the UK signing a roadmap agreement with France aimed at bolstering a cooperation to prevent these crossings. Bobby, is it a failure of Labour? Look, we should say they've only been in power for, just over 8 months now. But still, they came in with a plan. Is it their fault that this plan doesn't seem to be working?
So channel migrations, as part of migration, is a complex issue. And we've seen that since 2010, again, I'm going to refer back to the previous Conservative government, we had David Cameron saying he was going to try and reduce it. Then we had May, then we had Johnson, Truss a little bit, and Sunak as well, saying he'd stop the boat. So clearly, it's not a new issue. So they've had, 9-10 months? So at least they've come out with the right signalling with the Border Security Command, the new organisation. They've got this roadmap with France. And I would say, give them time. Because sometimes when we are hasty and criticise government, they can change policy. Because they think, oh,
but it's gone up, Bobby. It's gone up by 36%.
Yeah, but again, 36% from a small number. What is it now? Is it like 4,000, 5,000? Again, as a mathematician and statistician, obviously 5,000 in terms of absolute terms is a sizable number. But 1,000 moving from 4,000, that's like a needle point move. So I think actually, give them time to see if they can redress the situation. I think we shouldn't be hasty in terms of there's 14 years previously where we had the same issue. So I think it's not a new problem.
Lowri, do you think what they've put in place so far is the right way to go? Earlier in Jeremy's programme, Marina was talking about that Labour are taking a long-term approach rather than a short-term approach. Do you agree with that point of view?
No. The only thing that actually had even a tiny effect on the number coming via boats was the Rwanda plan. If you remember, when it was threatened that the planes were about to take off, there was a sudden flood of people crossing to Southern Ireland. Do you remember? And the Irish government, the Republic of Irish government, were very angry about this. So it was a sign that people were realising if they came to the UK illegally, they might end up in Rwanda. And of course, the first thing the Labour government did was abolish that plan. Although it's interesting, they're now looking at a plan in the Balkans, aren't they? About failed asylum seekers will potentially end up in the Balkans.
Well, but that's very different to the Rwanda plan. The Rwanda plan was if you came here illegally, you would go to Rwanda. Yes. This new plan, this new idea would be you could come here if you're...
No, you can't come here.
If your asylum gets rejected here, then you go to the Balkans.
Yes.
That's very different to Rwanda.
At the moment, we've got a situation where if you get one foot on British soil and you've chucked all your papers away, you're basically here to stay. And we know that. And if people know that, because at the moment we can't send people back, but if people know that actually if they don't win their 1,000th appeal, they will end up in the Balkans, that actually might be a deterrent. I mean, the idea that smash the gangs was ever going to work because it's just an endless supply of people who are willing to set up. They're a business, aren't they? They are a business, a very successful business.
But we should also not forget, I think so far this year, and we're not that far into the year, 10 people have lost their lives crossing the Channel. I think last year in 2024, it was 78 people who lost their lives trying to come here. People are putting themselves in huge amount of risk to get here. Bobby, a lot of people are saying, look, the government is to blame because they're not giving people opportunities to get here safely and legally.
But they are. I mean, boat crossings, illegal boat crossings, are a tiny, tiny percentage. The much bigger issue is legal.
But if you're seeking
legal migration, which is massive.
But my question is, if you are this moment in Sudan, or if you are in Iran or other places, or in Afghanistan, and you need to leave, how can you get here legally?
You try and go through Europe, go through France, and eventually try and get across to Britain and claim asylum.
Right,
and I think,
but there is no safe route. You can't go and present yourself somewhere outside of the UK and say, can I apply to come to the UK?
So perhaps our asylum system is broken, but I would say bigger than that is it's part of a big geopolitical issue. We've got global warming happening. We've got massive economic inequality. We've got regimes across the world. So actually, in that climate, Britain alone can't solve the issue because we are a small nation among many countries. I think it requires massive global coordination with Western powers more democratically.
Okay. Let me pause you. I'll come back to you, Lowri. But let's hear from Sharon, who's got in touch from Staffordshire. Sharon, good morning. Do you agree with Lowri that Labour have failed, that they haven't done enough to stop the flow of people taking that really dangerous journey across the Channel to come here?
Good morning. Yes, I agree with Larry 1,000%. This country is absolutely failing the British people. Now, they've taken in all these men, I should say, into this country. And I heard this morning it costs 41,000 just to look after one of them in this country. Yet they took away the fueling allowance from the elderly. The disabled, the people on benefit are going to suffer. Yet these people can come into our country and get everything that they want. And another thing I'm worried about is that I'm a woman in this country, and I can see all these men coming into this country. 99% of them are young men. This is worrying to me as a woman born in this country.
Okay.
It's quite worrying to me.
Bobby, what do you say to someone like Sharon, who's looking at that and feels worried? What would you say to her?
Yeah, obviously, like Sharon, in your individual circumstances, obviously, I don't want you to feel unsafe, but Britain still does, as a rich Western country, we still have a role to play in this world to make sure that when there are people in genuine need of escaping their country for various reasons, persecution, global warming, flooding, etc., that we do provide a safe haven. So I think
Bobby,
Sharon.
Hang on, can I back up Sharon here?
Bobby.
Sharon, I know what Sharon's talking about, and women will know what she's talking about. The area of London that I come from is now the high street is lined with cafes with groups of men sitting outside smoking. And as a woman, I now have to run the gauntlet of that.
The Home Office said that they've returned just over 16,400.
Drop and ocean.
What they're saying, immigrant offenders and foreign criminals. They have been repatriated. Sharon, does that make a difference? Does that show that Labour are trying to do something about the problem?
No, it does not make a difference. We don't know what these men have done in their own country. They could have murdered people, they could have raped women.
No, but this is people being returned. This is people being returned from the UK, being taken out of the UK and returned to other countries. Does that count?
Well, there's not enough of them going then. There's not enough of them going.
That's not enough. That's a record number since 2018.
Well, that is a poor number, I'm sorry to say. Very poor number then, I have to say.
And Sharon, what about Bobby's point earlier where he was saying, look, you were making the point, Bobby, that the number of people coming here on the boats, the Channel crossings, is minuscule in comparison to the number of legal immigration that we have. Does that worry you, Sharon?
To be honest, I don't really care. They should not be coming to our country. We've got our own people to look after.
But who's looking after those old people?
Sorry?
Who's looking after those old people?
Well, they're looking after themselves, or their family have to look after them.
But social care needs immigration in order to function. The NHS needs immigration, legal immigration in order to function.
To help. You're telling me that these men are going to come to help look after the elderly. Is that what you're telling me, Bobby? Please.
I didn't say the specific men, but
I'm Alexis, he's Bobby.
It's a good point, Sharon.
It's so funny, Bobby. Please do not.
No, that's Bobby.
Can I say, we've set up our NHS and our social care system so that it is reliant on foreign labour.
Yeah.
That needs to be addressed. So pay needs to be improved, training needs to be available.
So do you think if we paid more, you'd get more British people wanting to go into social care and the NHS?
Yes.
OK. Sharon, thank you for kicking us off. Let's speak to Gary in Aberdeenshire. Gary, welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, folks. Basically, every government has been failing to stop the migrants coming across, I feel, because the boats keep coming across, but yet the governments seem to be very slow to react. And I would say that most governments over the last 10 years has failed. To be fair, if the Britain's paid, $400 million for that detention camp that was supposed to be built at Dunkirk, but yet it hasn't been built because France has said planning issues. Where's the money gone then? So why can't the British government not send the Navy into English Channel and return the boats to France? Because the French authorities seem to be happy to push them over the borderline into our waters and send them to Britain easy enough.
Well, I think there are international laws that prevent you from doing that. Also, that there is the safety of the people on board. Gary was mentioning the waste of money. The Rwanda scheme that you mentioned at the very beginning, and that cost a whole load of money.
But it was always supposed to be a deterrent for people coming over. I think, how many billion do we spend a year now housing asylum seekers? I mean, it's absolutely huge. And when you have people who are about to lose their PIP, or people who have a member of their family who's lost the winter fuel allowance, it's very difficult to justify those kind of costs. I mean, the problem is, yeah, we'd all like to say anybody in need can come to this country. And if I was living in Somalia, I'd like to come here. We're an island. Our infrastructure is creaking. We don't have enough housing. The NHS is struggling. We cannot house endless numbers of people. So I'm afraid that we do have to make some rules.
And yet, on the other hand, what Bobby mentioned was legal immigration. We've seen the highest numbers that we have in years.
I think there's a problem with that, again, because it's allowing certain industries, and that would include the NHS, to mop up people from other countries because it's cheaper.
That's because
to get them to come
people in our shores currently don't apply in numbers for these positions.
Well, maybe they're not paid well enough. Maybe the terms and conditions aren't good. It allows massive migration allows for people at the bottom of the economic system to be exploited, to be paid badly, to have 0-hour contracts, to have bad terms and conditions. We should actually be concentrating on making it more economic for British people to take those jobs.
OK, Gary, thank you. Let's speak to Pete in Dorset. Pete, good morning. What do you think?
Well, I would say that, I think people need to understand, first of all, we've got to go back. They could solve a lot of this problem. Labour and Conservatives, neither are dealing with it properly by putting immigration centres in Calais and places like that, where people could apply there, where they're waiting to come over in the boats, and then be told, yes, you can go across, no, you can't. And then it's up to France to deal with them, the ones who get refused to come to England.
Right, so
but I think we're also getting misled. I work helping refugees, and we're always told about the people smugglers in France. If we want to stop this, any government, they actually bring them, I don't know if you know this, from their country. I know people who've been brought from Syria, Afghanistan. It's part of the process. Calais is the last part if they're coming to the UK. So really and truly, it's not just stopping the people smugglers in France. The only way you're going to really stop it is by putting sort of naval ships so many metres apart along the whole of the channel. You're never going to stop this like this. It needs to have a common sense approach. But also, we really owe some of these refugees asylum because we stirred up and got involved in wars in Syria, Afghanistan. Lots of people believe them to be illegal wars, Iraq and other places, and then we wonder why they're coming here.
OK, Pete, thank you.
And and I think the government, if they really want to do it, the common sense approach would be let's make it fair and easy for the genuine refugees.
OK, Pete, I have to leave it there. You've made some good points. Thank you for your calls. Thank you all for your calls on that.